you doing? Hi, Frankfurt. So nice to be here. My name is Sid. I started into design systems 5 years ago, and today I'm kind of visiting my own meetup here as a guest. So thank you so much for coming here. It's really cool to see the Frankfurt community growing. So I started into design systems 5 years ago in my living room. I was working as a freelance design system designer, and I was always admiring these cool design systems from the States like Airbnb, Atlassian. I wanted to learn from them, so I thought, why not starting a community and these events so we can learn from people. And yeah, I started in my living room, and now we are almost 100,000 people. That's incredible. Back then, there was no design system content in Germany, and I really wanted to work on design systems so hard. So I thought, let's push this topic in Europe, and here we are with so many people, which is so cool. So Frankfurt is not our only chapter. We have like 15 worldwide. I just came back from Düsseldorf. We did another meetup a month ago. We did one at Spotify, Stockholm. We also have somebody from Stockholm here, which is so cool. Hi. So yeah, it's so cool to have so many events worldwide and people coming together to learn about design systems. So thank you so much to all of you for supporting this and coming here. And yeah, just quickly want to tell you about our conference. So if you want to learn more about design systems, we had our big online conference in May, where we had Nathan Curtis, some really cool speakers. We had the eBay team presenting, and our conference is very hands-on. We don't like slides, so we want to see how people really work on and their practical tips and workflows. So if you want to learn more about design systems, you can still get access to recordings. And of course, it's Black Friday, so I thought I got a little bit inspired by Franny here, the emoji. Yeah, feel free to check it out. But recently, I've been vibe coding. I've been vibe coding like a maniac. How anyone here vibe coding with Figma Make, Cursor? Lovable, any kind of vibe coding. So yeah, I wanted to show you some cool projects I web coded. This is a community map, and I would love to invite you to also add your pin. The idea is to have all these people worldwide, showing where people are coming from. You can check them out, and you can also connect with them. So feel free to do that afterwards. We'd love to see your pin. It's friends.interdesignsystems.com. And also another project that I coded is a design systems job directory. So if you're looking for a job, and basically AI is scraping all the cool jobs, design system jobs, and then I display them here. Feel free to check that out as well. Hope that's helpful. Speaking of jobs, yeah, so many people, certainly big companies, are now looking for designers with AI experience. So this one is from Atlassian, and we all know what happens at Atlassian, and all these big companies will sooner or later come to Europe too. So if you're interested in learning about AI and vibe coding, those are job posts I found on the way here. It's from Spotify, Atlassian, Amazon. I think it will be a good idea to start vibe coding and learn about AI. And that's why I would like to announce our upcoming conference. So if you want to learn about vibe coding and AI, we have an online conference coming up in March. You can watch from your home, from the comfort, and learn from amazing people like Laura. We have Laura here today too. Nate Baldwin, Adobe, Miro, New York State, Disney, Atlassian, WhatsApp. So invited all some really cool speakers to show you how they use AI and vibe coding in their in their design systems workflows. So we'd love to see you there. This is how our conference usually looks like. It's very hands-on. anyone who has attended one of our online meetups or the conference, yeah, cool. Yes. Wait, next one should be Laura. Yeah, there you go. So it's very practical. We don't like slides. We really work in Cursor and Figma MCP, and all this stuff. And also, this is our introvert-friendly way of networking. So you can just this is our new board. It's very good network, and you don't have to talk to each other. Full of resources and stuff. So feel free to check that out. It's interdesignsystems.com. And the last project I write coded is the new Interdesign Systems website. I got rid of Framer and everything, and I just web coded the whole website and launched it yesterday. Feel free to have a look. Yeah, I wanted to prove that you can you can write code something useful, not only trashy prototypes you throw away, but you can create a full website and any kind of project, like you saw with the map and the jobs directory. So yeah, if you're interested in AI and web coding, I would love to see you there. And yeah, that's it from my side. Feel free to talk to me afterwards about design systems, design systems, web coding. Yeah, enjoy the evening, and it's time for our first speaker, Laura.
So this is a design system meetup, but actually it's more like a mix of design system things, failing, having fun with AI, and especially my absolute favorite topic, legacy. And it's very funny, two of the projects I will share tonight are actually inspired by people which are here today. I will talk about the table component at Muse, which just my old boss joined the meetup, so I'm very happy. I'm sure he will enjoy me tackling the tables at Muse. And the second project I will share is actually inspired by SAP, which is about legacy when it comes to information. And I have somewhere actually click. Amazing, so I don't need to stand and do this. Okay, so I'm Laura and I work at Figma, and here you can see me testing out some new AI capabilities in Figma that still have a big AI soul. See, I tried some image editing, and when I remove my face, it's not me anymore. And that's the things we do at Figma. We're having fun with AI and testing out things, and also seeing that they're not work so perfect all the time, but actually this is so much fun. I work at Figma as a designer advocate, which means I'm kind of like, I have like three roles in one. One role is I'm kind of like a consultant. So for example, this week I visited ARD, Siemens and Adesso and helped them to build better design systems, building better token structures for their business needs and so on and so forth. And I also work a lot with SAP and a lot of other great design system teams to just see how we can push design systems further. And then another part of my role is exactly what I'm doing here, meeting great people and working at the community. And then all the things I learned while visiting customers and also going to meetups, I will take all this feedback and bring this back to Figma and work on features that you would love to have. In my case, especially on design system features, if you listen to our schema conference, it was in October, I worked on the check design feature, which is our AI linting, which I'm very excited about because this is what I always dreamed of when I worked in design systems myself. And a little bit to my legacy, let's say. So before I joined Figma, I worked with the Porsche design system, the Migros design system, I worked at IBM, I worked at Muse. HelloFresh from IC to senior leadership. And as I said, now what I do at Figma is that I work with a couple of very great companies and they're really amazing design systems. And this makes me super proud because I can also take all this knowledge to you to these meetups. So to zooming a little bit out, what we at Figma, and I guess also everyone else who's building design systems, want is like automating all the nitty-gritty things, like not thinking about the button color, the button radius, or how to combine certain components to make more space for, imagining. And I know a lot of people think that design systems are hurting your creativity. No, that's not the case. It's the absolute opposite. Design systems are therefore to make more room for creativity because you don't need to think about the nitty-gritty things. So when we think about the current state of design systems are kind of like the intersection for design and engineering. Design systems are there to create a shared language. But obviously, AI just came into the picture. So if we think about tomorrow, design systems are there for so many more things. And I just had like a great conversation with one of the amazing VPs from the SAP design system, where she said that they're actually like in the very lucky position, let's imagine like a spider in a web, that they are like have such a strong standing in the company that they are there now to shape how SAP is like using design system, phrasing those patterns. And I was like so excited to hear that, because this is exactly what design systems and design system teams are there for, shaping how companies use things at scale. So design systems and AI will be there to not just help design engineers, but also help copywriters, strategists, researchers, and also help us how to work with AI. That all sounds really great, right? But let's wait a minute. AI sounds amazing, but in 9 of 10 cases when I visit customers, they don't have AI enabled. Their legal team won't allow it, or they're so far away from that. They're not even have like embedded tokens. They're still working with styles, or even with hex values, right? So if we kind of go a little bit into reality, we have so many other problems to solve first, because before we're even ready to really work with AI and like leverage all kind of like the full functionality of it. So if we think this is all the work we do in design systems, those kind of like 20% is component work. And I'm referring here to something I just learned in September from IKEA, and I really loved like this kind of like analogy. And the other 80% we're actually working on design system teams is documentation, communication, support, and kind of like building an infrastructure for our design system. And what I like to call that is the fight against legacy. We all know that. And I like to kind of like break down legacy in like 3 parts, where the first part is information, so scattered knowledge, mindset, like so how we change people's minds, how they work, and last but not least, technology. Mindset is one of the hardest things to shift, right? It's like this mindset of the design system is not our job, the design system is not working, and we can do that all way faster if we do it our own way. But this will again lead to legacy, to a lot of like stuff in the code, in your design systems in Figma, that will just like distort how your product looks at the end. But because mindset is the most hardest to shift, I want to focus on the other 2 things and kind of like show you how they can help to kind of tackle this end boss that we call the mindset shift when it comes to working. And let's start with technology. So technology is the layer that the most people see the very first time. We have different frameworks, different libraries, nothing is fitting together, and then people kind of like start to do their own things. And here I brought 2 examples. So what it's all about is like not maintaining the old stack, but it's about designing a connected infrastructure. And the first example I bring is when I worked at HelloFresh, which kind of, when I now look back, was the absolute ideal state. So I've been there to leading like the Android and iOS design system and introducing something like versioning, getting rid of the hex code values and introducing a stable token set. There were a lot of teams, everyone always has a lot to do, but what we pushed there is actually just having a shared like project in Atlas. Every team had like one stake of the whole process of migrating from hex values to variables, and like everyone did their part. And when some people were already done and there were some teams that were still lagging behind, everyone else were taking over. And it was, looking back, a very smooth process, and I would wish this would work the same as well, that just everyone says, okay, We in that together, we all pulling the wagon, and if someone needs help, we're jumping in. But that's not the case at every company. For example, my last company, Muse. So we had this very great team called the Vision team that like brought a new vision of how we wanted the software to look in like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to life, introduced like a new big table component, which was one of the most important components in our design system because we were a B2B software. And that was great. We built this component as a design system team, but when we kind of looked into the weeds, there were not just this one table component, there were 7 backend tables, 4 half-baked front-end tables, there were some data grids, and every team looked at the tables and were like, oh, they're not really fitting, we just built a new one because it's better for the new data structure. So basically every half year there was a new table in the system, and we were kind of like trying to fight against them in the design system team, and it was not working. So now that I have the privilege to kind of like work in Figma, I was like, why do I not take this in my own hands and think how I could solve this with AI on my own? And I have some coding knowledge, I know how to write React, I know how to do a Swift app, but when it comes to backend and frontend, I'm not the best, but there I got AI as kind of like my companion to help me to get through that. So what I did is first was like, okay, let's use ChatGPT to see what is the front end and what is the backend table, compare them, and like trying to see where are the difference and how they are built to kind of figure out how I migrate all those like simple backend tables to my new shiny front end table, because that was the end goal. Everything should run on the front end. What I did then is that, again, I used ChatGPT and put in all the knowledge I had around how the backend tables are built, how my front-end table is looking, and then writing a TypeScript to kind of like run through my system and be like, okay, can we identify all the simple tables, all the more kind of like full-fleshed out tables, and then big data grids and categorize them. I know I wouldn't be able to like kind of like migrate those hard ones, but I was like, if I do like the first step in front of the engineers, like, okay, I can do the first heavy lifting of all the easy tables, and if I do that, maybe you can help me with the rest, because I know that really worked at HelloFresh. There, I just learned how to code an iOS app, and they were like, okay, this designer really wants to build this design system, so let's help her. And I thought this would work here as well, so I wrote my first script, I did another one, put in some documentation so people could understand it, and then I just wrote down like an easy process, like 5 steps on how this could work, and it could maybe work for you. So like in very easy stripped down is like connect VS Code, that's what I'm working in, to your Figma MCP server, and point this to your design node, which was my fancy shiny table, and then put the context into your IDE, then run the mapping script and target the backend table, and then generate the code and ship it, and it's kind of that simple. I tested it with one table and it worked. Not sure if it would work that easily in the legacy framework of Muse, but I was like so impressed that I could tackle such a big problem that I know for 1.5 years I was like fighting against to get kind of like the buy-in from like anyone in the company to like tackle it. To that day, like I didn't have the tools I had now. I wish I would have, because I'm sure I could have seduced the people to finally migrate some of the old table components. But now it's just like so easy, and I'm so impressed by that, and I really love that. Just like it still set is like so crazy what you can do by now, just as a kind of like designer with like some coding knowledge. And the second one is information, and this is like one of the layers that hurts the most when you work in a design system team, because you put so much effort into writing documentation, trying to tidy everything up, but the longer you have a design system, the harder it gets to maintain. Also, it depends on how big is the company scale, right? Like everyone works with different tools, puts documentation in a different place, and this can be like really hard to tackle. I just had a chat about that with a dear friend about how to tackle design system documentation legacy. And what you at the end want, right, is like the single source of truth. And I was like, how could I solve this? I really like this idea. So maybe I can get like my hands dirty and see how to tackle that. So kind of like, bring all those like different pieces, right? You have like storybook, you have a conference page. Then in my old company also on HelloFresh, like we always had updates in Slack. Then you have your documentation website and so on and so forth. And I think we all know that when you have so many information, things get blurry for your designers, your engineers, and then they do stuff on their own, what we don't want. So let's imagine there would be a tool that could fix that. Let's go into the demo. So what I have done in Figma Make, and if any of you is already in the age of myself, they will recognize the Day of the Tentacle reference of my logo, is that I put like all the ideas I had, where I was like, okay, I don't just want to have a tool that is for design system maintainer, where I can like have an AI crawler that like scans all the documentation they have so they don't need to do it manually. I also want an interface for the user. So they can just go in and say button, and then this like tool fetches from Slack, Conference, all the kind of like tools you have, Notion, and pulls together changelog, and also for myself because I love knot-based design, it just looks so pretty. Also have a knot-based view and can see all the interconnection in between all the different informations. So let's see how that would work. Let's delete some legacy. So this would be the user view, so me as a design system user, and I just want to find out what happened lately with the table component. And you can see here all the data is kind of like fetched in the background, and you can see, okay, there was like something happened in Figma, you can go to the source, something happened in Storybook, something happened in Notion. And I'm like, oh, I don't really like the knot-based view. It's like too confusing for me as a designer or as a PM maybe. So let's go to the changelog view. And there we would have a changelog view with all the different things. And maybe let me switch to the proper view so it's a little bit easier without my prompt at the side. And go back here, pull in the table, and go to the changelog view. And here we just then have all the things that happen, plus the sources, everything is categorized. And you can look just for all the components you have in your design system, and you don't need to just like ask someone again from the design system team what happened lately. You can just go there and have all the things by yourself because your design system team just plugged everything in. But then there's obviously also the maintainer view, right? Like, I have table documentation in Notion because there I wrote my notes. Then I have 3 Slack channels that we update all the time. We have our 3 documentation websites. So let's just see how we can bring them all together. So you see I typed a table, and then there's an interface where you can see you can plug in different sources, Figma, Storybook, Conference, so on, but also custom ones. Think this in a way of kind of like connectors. So in the ready-made software, there would be kind of like connectors to those things, but you can also just like plug in links. And now will be a little bit tricky on how. Just imagine I'm going to my browser now, you don't see it, but I'm connecting some links, which now will pop up here. You can see I added the first source, going back to my browser, getting some more infos, adding them all in here. You see there are still some glitches in my UI. There are still some GitHub primer color buttons. So there we have the 3 sources, and what you can do now is analyze and compare. So then it will kind of like run through all the different infos you have, and then show you what is the overlapping info, what is different, what is the missing info, and also like a source analyze. And what we then want at the end is that you can take all this and generate a file in whatever kind of format you need and just download it, and then maybe create a new documentation website and so on and so forth. I started today, and I have like a video on my next slide, so you can see a little bit what's happening at the moment. So I did this first kind of like prototype in Figma Make, and now I'm actually like went into Cursor and trying to find out how I can connect like single sign-on, because we know data privacy is very important for big companies. How I can have a backend, and how I can like really fetch in like real connectors. So yeah, you can plug in your Notion, your Atlassian, and so on and so forth, to like hopefully at one point make this like a white label tool that I can give to all the people that want to do something like this, and use this for their company. But yeah, just like very exciting, because someone put the idea in my head, and then I couldn't stop thinking about it. And now I hope it will really become like a real tool that I can give to all the people I work with when I'm at Figma. So we look now at how we can like tackle information legacy, but also how we can tackle technology legacy. And I think I hope you heard in between that like tackling those two kind of like parts of legacy are all like bring apart with getting closer to other people and like helping them. And I think really that like if you tackle those two parts of legacy, the mindset shift will come on its own, because people will really see that you put in the effort to make their lives easier, and also that you take some stuff off their plate. And I would just love to close with like those three like things that I took away from like thinking about legacy and like working with AI. Is that I really think like AI won't solve our problems, but it will help us to build the tooling way faster and way easier to kind of like tackle those problems. And legacy isn't just code and designs or documentation, it's our habits. And like I see that every day when working like with the big teams and design systems and our customers, that like really working with AI is not just like putting a sticker on your current workflow, it's really like shaking what you currently do and like really change your mindset, because AI isn't precise as we worked before, like very pixel perfect. It's not precise at all, but that's great, right? It's wild, and that's the best thing about it, at least I believe so. And our job isn't to eliminate legacy, it's to help everyone to move beyond. And that's it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO at Token Studio. Today I want to tell a story that's very close to our hearts at Token Studio. That's a story about the evolution of design data. And like mentioned, it's a bit of a nerdy talk, but it's also a story, and we're going to look at some stuff. So and if you have questions, if I'm just raise your hand in the middle. That's totally fine. So we'll look back at where we've been with design tokens, uncover some of the hidden pains that we are all feeling, and explore where things are going next. The first thing I want to talk about is from how we're moving from static data to dynamic executable logic that will enable truly intelligent design systems. Our journey at Token Studio never started with a business plan. It started with a pain point. We were practitioners, we were building design systems, we were running into all kinds of problems, and we were feeling a lot of friction. And we saw really a gap between the beautiful, consistent systems that we had envisioned and the messy reality of getting that all across different tools and platforms. So since we launched our plugin a couple of years ago, we've grown to support over 250,000 designers across tools like Figma, Penbolt, and our own platform. And my slides are running one behind. That's not good. And while doing that, we listened to many requests from users who are trying to build complex design systems. Questions like, how can I add functions to my tokens for lightening or darkening colors, or how do I use different color spaces that are not available in all my tools, or that I maybe need to generate things, Or how can I create a color scale, a typography scale or a spacing scale that is based on a mathematical equation, and all those kind of things. So these conversations led or revealed a fundamental truth, and that was that the ambition of our design system actually had outgrown the capabilities of static tools that we use today. So the very foundation of design tokens, those simple static key value pairs, was actually becoming the bottleneck. And that realization didn't just inspire new features, but it actually inspired us to rethink the entire foundation itself. So to understand where we're going, I want to quickly rewind a little bit. I'm sure many of you have actually lived this nightmare. The designer hands off a beautiful mock-up and then goes to the developer and there's hex codes, and of course it's a little bit back in the past, but that's where we came from, or we sometimes still are. And a hex code goes into development, gets absorbed in the code base. A week later, marketing decides to tweak this color a little bit, and now the developer has to go back and you have to do all this work, and you've lived this. And then what about the iOS team or the Android team? Or the marketing website, and they all have their own hard-coded values, and this was a reality, and this was really a reality of chaos by 1,000 hex codes, right? And that design tokens changed that entire workflow for us. And what that did is instead of abstracting design decisions into static mockups, we abstracted them into structured data. So that blue was no longer a hex code, but we now have a design token, and we maybe call it brand primary. And this simple shift created a single source of truth, or at least that's how we call it for a long time. And the token became the ultimate authority for us, bridging the gap between design and development. The conversation was no longer about which is the correct hex code, but the conversation is now about are you using the right token. It was a simple idea with profound consequences for building systems at scale. And this concept, of course, was too powerful to just remain a best practice, and over the years it needed to become a community-driven standard. And that's where the W3C Design Tokens Community Group comes up, or the DTCG, what we call it. And at Token Studio, we've been really proud supporters and contributors to this effort from the beginning, because we really believe that open standards are the only way forward to make scalable design. And for me personally, it's also a topic that I'm very passionate about. For the past 2 years, I've been contributing and working together with the community group to build these standards. And my focus has been on pushing the standards forward to solve the really tough stuff that growing teams face every day. And this work gave me, my clicker is not working. This work gave me a front seat row in some of the problems that were there. Look at something like theming, for example. This was a very lengthy discussion, and a lot of people had a lot of opinions, and we talked about it, and then finally we came to the conclusion that we had a solution, and that took 2 years. So now we're coming to part 2, and that's the drift paradox. So the DTCG created a standard, and they very wisely kept the official standard based on structure. And of course they would not be able to predict every need and everything that we would need in the future. So what happened there? We built in official, but it's been there from the beginning. It was this official escape hash, which we called the $extension space. So this was sort of a sanctioned space for innovation, and what it really means was, now I know about my slides, so I'm clicking in the wrong place, Okay, it was a green light for tools like for us and Start Dictionary and all other tools to create those powerful features that users were asking for, like color modifiers, matte functions, custom types, and whatnot. But this created a new unspoken problem. The standard told us where to put this innovation, but didn't really tell us what to do with that information and how it should be processed. So every tool was left to invent its own engine. And what happens if every tool invents its own engine to interpret this logic? Let's look at a simple darken function. Yeah, there we go. So imagine you want to create a darken function for your, for our primary mover, right? We want to darken our primary brand color, let's say by 30%. Because the darken function isn't, because the darken function isn't the standard, it's a proprietary piece of logic that's defined inside each of those engines that I just mentioned. So when our Token Studio plugin sees it, it runs a specific algorithm and gives you a dark blue. But when you look at the next compiler, that's compiler X here, it runs a slightly different algorithm for that dark, and then you get a different color. And tool Y maybe doesn't understand what's a darken function and it just returns your brand color. So this single source of truth now produces 3 different outcomes. It's pretty nice for a source of truth. And that is what we call implementation drift. So it's a direct result of that well-intentioned dollar extension space and other amazing things that have happened in the last years, but we have now implementation drift. And this is a hidden text that on every design system team there today. And you know, the hours of debugging why your color in production is slightly different, or why your iOS color is slightly different, or what happened in my pipeline, right? So yeah, that happens. So yeah, you have your spacing that drifts and your colors that shift, and yeah, this failure, this wasn't a failure of the standard. Oh, no, we have to go back. Anyway, so what's the ultimate cost of drift, right? All of these competing dialects. The real cost is that innovation really grinds to a halt, right? Because things don't work. So every great idea, every request for a custom function or for a new type, they get stuck in the mud. This is, okay, now I'm slightly back. Yeah, okay. So, we're left in a world where our tools really can't keep up with our ambitions, and we've pushed static JSON files really to its limits. Okay, now I hope. Yeah. Okay, I'm really sorry, but this is like, I think I have to stop pressing buttons because they'll be all over the place. Yeah. Okay, almost there, yeah. Yeah. So, at Token Studio, after experiencing this pain ourselves for many years now, really deep pain, we had to ask ourselves one fundamental question, a question that really changed everything. And the question was, what if the logic traveled with the data? What if instead of having 10 different compilers, we had one single engine that could run everywhere? And the result of that exploration is something we call TokenScript. And before I start explaining what I want to be very clear about, this is not another proprietary layer on top of JSON. This is a specialized interpreter programming language, which is designed from the ground up for design systems. And we knew that if we wanted to succeed with this couldn't be some other proprietary lock-in tool, but that's why we are really proud to announce that TokenScript language specification and its core interpreter will be fully open source. And then I need to improve my clicking a little bit. So the key is the logic you write, your darken function or your math, your spacing calculations, they live in TokenScript itself. And the interpreter behind it is a lightweight portable engine, which you can think of like maybe a small JavaScript library, but it's not, it's its own engine. That can be embedded anywhere, whether it's a design tool like Penpot, or maybe our Figma plugin, or our platform, style dictionary, or a real-time browser application. You want the same results everywhere. The engine runs the code everywhere, guaranteeing every time that your data output is 100% the same, according to your source of truth. So, what does this let you do? It lets you move from describing your system to actually programmatically defining your system. So instead of manually defining every single shade in your color scale, your blue, 100, 200, 300, you want to write a simple algorithm that defines that color scale and all the decisions behind that. Now you want to change your lightness curve a bit, or one line of code. where you need 50 steps instead of 10. It's changing one variable. So, yeah, this is of course interesting. Also interesting to see these colors, by the way. There's a very different color than yeah, another design systems problem, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, one thing that is really interesting, that once we have this, and we've heard a lot today about vibe coding and about very large scalable systems and all the trouble with that. And what we really don't want in the design system is hallucination. So that's really interesting in the age of vibe coding and AI assisted coding and all these kind of tools. How do we keep it consistent? All right, enough talk. I'm going to keep it a little short because I think we've all sat for quite some time. How's the energy? How much time do I have? Okay. Then now I'm going to attempt to do the magic screen switch. Because I am now on extended display, but then I have to share my display for which I need to go to. Okay, where is this now?
Top right, should I do it?
Mirror.
Yeah.
Okay. There. Now we want to go here. No, why can't I go? Interesting, because I'm still presenting. Maybe let me close my keynote and maybe it doesn't. Yeah. This can go away. All right. I think we should be good again. Yeah. So what we're looking at here is actually the a playground for the TokenScript interpreter. So it's still a little bit technical, but we'll get there. So all of you who of you are working with design tokens and are actually somewhat familiar with the JSON format behind design tokens? Yeah, you know, folks here. Okay, yeah. So this should be looking fairly familiar to you if you're working with design tokens. So we have a color primary, which is a hex code, and we have a color secondary, which is using HSL, and then we have an accent color, which is referencing our primary color, and then we have some other stuff in here, and then this is, for example, I want to use my large spacing as the base spacing, but multiply by 2. And I'm just having simple examples here. Is it large enough for everyone, or should I zoom in more? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so so typical design tokens. A few extra features here. You see some math over here, and you see here there's HSL being used. But what every tool needs is to translate this into something like this, right? We need these output values because that's what we need every day. So you can see the math became 16 pixels and all that. What we also see is that at the bottom here you see some color schemas. Not every tool supports every color, and if you've been working on color for a while and color spaces and trying to do all kinds of things, gradients or something, you realize that different color spaces have different properties that we want to use, but we also have to think all the time about the tools we use. My design tool, does it support this color space? And and when I send it for development, for iOS or for web, do I need different output formats? So that's really a big challenge. So what you can see over here is that based on this JSON, it's actually loading the two color schemas automatically from our registry. I'll not deep dive too much into technology here, but but that is the important takeaway, that we have these color schemas that actually understand the schema itself, it's contained, and it can also understand to which other color space it can translate. And what TokenScript does is, if you have complex color spaces or you need an output for a specific tool, it can automatically translate that because all the algorithms are contained, so that you can always translate between these things. You also see things like custom functions, for example, the contrasting color and HSL. I'll dive into that a bit. But this is not the only thing. So this is just the DTCG JSON that you're used to with some extra features. But this is where it gets a little more interesting. Now I have another set of tokens here, and I see here, hey, I have a function here, which is called contrast color. And this is something many people may like to use because I have background colors that can be dynamic. Maybe I'm white labeling, and I at any point of time would like to know if I should use a white or a black text on top of that without having thousands of tokens. So what if I could just say that my primary base over here, what is it? Here, primary base is green, and my own color can be white or black. And you see that in this case it's choosing white because it's using an APCA contrast algorithm to determine which design token on top of that will be the better one. And then you can see how it goes here. So the input color is another reference, and then we want to check that out, which one should be used. So you can make these kind of things. But how this really works is this is a token script function, and you can define those functions. So let's jump to the token script tab, and then I have to select something like a token script. So this is our language. It's its own language. It's not JavaScript. It's not something else. It's token script. And they can define things like yellow, which is a color, and then we understand that it's important for design systems, and then we can return it on the right. You see it's rendering a color. I'm going to just quickly jump over here and copy this. So the darken, what did I do? That's interesting.
Always shortcut.
Huh?
Always the shortcut.
Yeah, so anyway, we'll look at something else. And yeah, so you can see that you can create functions, and you can do all kinds of stuff, but over here you see a color scale. This may not the prettiest one, so maybe we want to use OKLCH instead. And you can define all these functions, but as a designer you may not want to use all these functions. It may be like, yeah, this is nice, my developers do all this, but I don't want to learn a whole new programming language to use this. But yeah, like the title of my talk was designing the tools to build the tools that build design systems. We need these underlying fundamental layers, and that's why I want to show some stuff we're working on today. So this really translates into something like a runtime UI. And zoom in a bit. So this is not a product. This is just another playground. So I'm going to enable my core colors over here, right? So this is where token script is running real time, and it's actually processing. So maybe you have seen the Vercel components for design tools. They made a really cool component library to build design tools like Figma or Bandplot or Framer. And they created that entire infrastructure. Why? Because everybody's trying to build that, and it's really important that we have something that works. So token script is really that engine. And as you can see, I can enable sets, and I can see these sets. And now I'm seeing a more familiar token table over here. And I can see my color background is coming from the dark set. But if I override it with the light set, you can see here immediately they're jumping around, they're inheriting. And we need an engine that can calculate all these things when I enable token sets, because that's how it works. You have many token sets, and they can be in an order, and when the tokens are there multiple times, they overwrite each other. And a lot of funky stuff goes on. It doesn't look so complicated, but it really is. Yeah. So so we need engines for this, right? So this is what you get when you have one engine. So we're implementing this in Bandplot, we're implementing this in all our platforms, we're implementing this in Style Dictionary, so that across our entire ecosystem, and any tool can use this really. We have reliable outputs with access to color spaces. We can share logic. We can bundle it with our design system and do that. So, and I'm not going to show our product today, but I'm going to jump into it a little bit for a second. So here you have again the token table, and this is our studio platform where you can, of course, manage your design system, design tokens, documentation, assets, all those kind of things. But I'm not really talking about that today. What I'm talking about is something what we call generators. And generators, surprise, are things like that you can build with token script. And when I create a generator, for example, and these aren't really in code, they're just very simple examples, but you can see I can generate design tokens. And you can imagine that when you have a token set and you have a generator, you put those together, you now have a token set that always has tokens that follow the exact logic and all the algorithms that you had intended while making this beautiful system. And they stay preserved as code. But like I said, not everybody wants to write code. So let's start with something that maybe, and I don't want to do typing here. Let's start with a question that, okay, we want to create a color scale with 16 steps for my primary brand color. I want to make sure there's a nice lightness Bezier curve, avoiding the black and whites on the scale. And I want to use the HSL color space, but my output of the token should be in X. Okay, so let's try it. So this is a live demo, so let's see. We have errors, but we only have one error. I have to think about it a little bit, and there we go. And now we have a piece of code that for me generates a color scale. And let's see if I made the number of steps 16. So if I now copy that, this is perfect token script. Let me just quickly take this back to the interpreter. And I don't know what I did, but I really feel that today it's not my day.
You're missing a schema, Mike.
Huh?
I think you're missing the schema.
Yeah, but it was also, okay. Oh, yeah. I see that we can see schema loading back. See, so this is our schema. So you can use schemas from people. You can import color spaces. So I can, let's say, I want to use the HSL color. Yeah, okay. I'm out of luck here. I'm going to go back here. Yeah. So anyway, that's what we were doing. So and maybe I want to try something else, right? So maybe I want to generate some core colors for my design system. And let me clear this chat, and you can easily see it. So yeah, I can really ask the system a question, and it's going to think about it, and it does make mistakes sometimes. Let's think a little harder. And, that's interesting. Always when you're doing a demo, right, it doesn't work as good as every other day. Yeah, let me just try this one more time. This is the live demo effect, I guess. But yeah. It usually works really well. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, so this is and this is generating valid design tokens. You can see it over here. I have my color brand blue 100 and so on, and I got the purples just as I asked, and I have my green color ramp over here, and my semantic warning, and an error, and some neutral colors. The stuff I asked for in a simple prompt, but this is now code, and of course I can break that up into smaller pieces, and I can talk with it, but that goes a little bit beyond, I think, the purpose of this. And what you see over here is hex colors, just like I wanted, but I also said process it in HSL, because that's my processing language. I want to use HSL, or maybe OKLCH or OKSSL to process my colors, but I still need the output in hex colors, because not all my systems can use that, but I don't want to sacrifice, I want to have nice gradients. So yeah, so those are there too. So, and now I want to show you something. Let's take this same prompt to maybe Cloud or GPT, and let's see what they can do. So this is what happens, and this one starts generating directly today. Okay, great. And here we get the conversation, and some ideas, lovely. Yeah, okay, yeah. So this is taking some time, and it's doing a great job. It doesn't tell me how it did it, it just does it, and if I have to change it, I still have to sit and change hex codes. So that doesn't really make sense to me, and it takes forever. But if I go here, and yeah, oh, you saw how fast that was. Let me try. Let me just clear the chat. Just let me see. So if I do something simpler, like generate a red color scale. Ah, that's a fast response. How many steps do you want? Maybe 16. Oh, that made a mistake. Ah, there we go. Yeah, so this is a piece of logic that I can now work on, and that I can use, and that I can share. So if you go now, yeah, that's the last one that I probably want to show. So if I go back to this generators piece that I showed you earlier over here, yeah, right, and this is, for example, that same script that we just saw. I can save this as a generator, and I can work on it, and I can share this with my team. I save this over here. And now I can generate token sets from this. Yeah, I think that will go a bit deeper, but like, if I know where to look at this, create a new token set real quick for you, which I'll call A, really nice. And I'm just going to quickly collect a generator here that we just created. So we just created a core tokens generator from the script. I can execute that, and now you can see it's generating design tokens for me in real time. Maybe I shouldn't have done a demo with 100, but yeah, it's okay. Now I just hope that if I do this over here and I go to my tokens while this is happening, we can actually go to A and see that A is receiving a lot of design tokens, so it's updating. You can see it's creating that. And this is now linked to your token set, and now you can bundle this with your design system, and everywhere you send those tokens and those custom functions and those custom color spaces, every tool that receives that is able to work with that, and if it doesn't support your color space, we automatically scale it down. We even tell you if it was lossy or lossless, and you can use it everywhere. So that is what we're building, and yeah, that's what I wanted to show a little bit today. This wasn't really a big talk, this was more, yeah, a story about design data, the evolution of it, and why it's really important that as a community we keep investing in building the underlying technologies that we all need to build a truly connected and open ecosystem. Because at the end of the day, design systems are meant to open up an ecosystem and to speed things up, and we want to get out the bottlenecks. So yeah, thank you everyone. It was